Are you doing all the right things but not losing weight? The hidden reasons of why you may be struggling. Hey team, and welcome to this week's episode of The Inspired Show, the show that is dedicated to helping you become the best version of yourself, mentally as well as physically. We've got a great episode for you today, especially if you're trying to get into shape and you feel you're doing all the right things but nothing's working for you. But before we get into it, if you've not done so already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Remember, when you subscribe, you get updated every single time an episode drops, and it helps grow the page, which means you can reach more people, inspire some positivity, and help change even more lives. Don't forget to smash a big like on this video. Let me know any big takeaways or any future episodes you'd like me to cover in terms of topics. And don't forget to share this with somebody who may benefit as well. And also link down below in the captions at all our social media handles where we post content every single day on helping you become that best version of yourself, plus the link to our exclusive community with all our plans inside there as well. So today's episode is all about identifying what is actually holding you back, because there's nothing more frustrating of when we're feeling we're doing all the right things but nothing's working for us. And I've been there. I've been in that position where I feel I'm doing everything correctly but nothing's moving forward. I'm eating really healthily, I'm moving my body on a regular basis, but the scales simply aren't moving. So what we're going to do in this episode is break down the potential reasons of why this may be happening. So the first reason, you're eating super healthy, but the weight's not coming off. Now, when it comes to your nutrition, whilst it's very important that we eat nutrient-dense foods for the vitamins, the minerals, the fiber, all the general goodness our body needs to thrive, ultimately, if those foods are still too calorific and we are consuming more than what our body needs, then we're still not going to lose any weight or body fat, despite how healthy it is. So you might be eating the healthiest diet in the world, but you still may be consuming too many calories. So that could be one of the reasons why the weight's not coming down, even though you were eating super healthy. So a really quick fix for this is to start keeping a food log or food journal of your portions that you're eating. What this will then tell you is it'll identify how many calories you're actually consuming, and then all you do then is make your portion sizes slightly smaller to put yourself into that deficit whilst keeping those nutrient-dense foods in check. Another reason why you might be not seeing results is you may be tracking at the moment. You may be keeping a food log using apps like MyFitnessPal, NutriCheck, or NetDiary. Now, if you feel that you're doing this correctly, but you're not losing weight, the first thing that we need to be aware of is whatever's going into here is not creating that calorie deficit. And unless we're creating that calorie deficit, we're not going to lose weight. So what we need to do is identify why your food logging is not working for you. And usually it's one of a couple of things. So number one, it's the way we're tracking our food. We might not be as accurate as we believe we're being. And this could come down to numerous different factors. We might be guesstimating too much. We might be using generic kind of portions, for example, a tablespoon of this, a teaspoon of that, and we might not be weighing or measuring foods out. So why is this important? Well, firstly, if we have no idea about portion control and we're just kind of guessing what a portion looks like, it's not going to be accurate. If you're using generic things like a tablespoon or a teaspoon, how do you know that your tablespoon or your teaspoon is the same as what's in your wrap? And if there's too much guesstimating, it's just not going to be accurate. So a really quick fix for this is making sure initially on your journey that you're using a pair of digital scales. That's what I would recommend. You don't need to be doing this forever, but you need to do it long enough to bring awareness to what the portions actually look like. And then every so often you can obviously dial back into the measuring a bit more accurately just to avoid complacency. So make sure you are measuring things accurately. When you start doing that, it'll be more accurate for you and bring awareness to portion control. Another thing to be very mindful of is when you're logging is when you don't have access to weighing or measuring your foods. And this will happen from time to time. So for example, if you're eating out and you go to a shop, let's say you have a sandwich. Now, if it's a sandwich that's packaged and has a barcode, most of these apps will have a barcode scanner and you're able to scan what the sandwich is, and that's pretty easy to do. The problem arises if you go to maybe a family-run cafe and you order a sandwich off the menu, then you're not going to be able to weigh or measure that out or use a barcode scanner. So that's where you do have to use an element of guesstimation. But for a lot of people, they massively underestimate how many calories they're consuming. So if you are eating out, always search the type of food that you're eating and then look for the highest value you can find on the list that comes up and then put 1.2 of a serving. It's always better to overestimate than underestimate. So that could be one of the reasons why your tracking is not working. Another reason why tracking is not working is because a lot of people, they normally get complacent, especially if they know they've overconsumed. And this is a big mistake I used to make myself. So if I was doing well on my calorie counting and then I had a day where I went a bit off track, I knew I overindulged, I would more often than not bury my head in the sand and I would stop tracking because I knew it'd gone over, and I'd get into the mindset of thinking, well, what's the point in tracking because I know I'm over, so I'll just leave it for today. But what then happens is we've got gaps missing in our diary, which means the data we're recording is not accurate. So we are not losing weight, but we're looking at the data and the data is telling us that we're in a deficit, but we're not losing weight. But the fact of the matter is, if we're burying our head in the sand, that data is incomplete. So we need to get really good at bringing self-awareness that when we go over to still track the data to give us an understanding of how many calories we actually consume, and then we can make amendments from that. So that could be another reason why you are not seeing progress despite feeling that you're doing everything right. Now that we've covered the food aspect of doing things that we feel we're doing correctly, but we've identified where we're going wrong, we're going to now look at the mindset aspect of things. Because typically, when we are not being consistent with our nutrition and our calories, there is usually an underlying reason for this. So we need to really identify this as well, because there's no point just working on the accountability of the food if we're not addressing the underlying issues. Otherwise, we're still going to keep slipping up here despite having that awareness. So here are a few things of what could be happening mindset-wise, which is enabling you to overcome these challenges. So firstly, is it perfectionism? A lot of people feel they've got to be perfect in order to see the results they want. And when they're unable to be perfect, they get into the mindset of what's the point? I can't eat my healthy meals this week, so what's the point in even trying? So this is the all or nothing mindset. If you've got this mindset, you're always going to be either on it or off it. So to overcome this type of mindset, we need to let go of this perfectionism and start focusing on consistency. Consistency is much better than perfection because it allows us to start making changes long term. The second thing could be emotional eating, like we're eating our stresses. We're eating when we're sad, we're eating when we're bored, we're eating when we're overwhelmed. And unless we address this, we are always going to keep turning to food as a way to deal with that. So it's very important we address these issues. Another one could be sleep. If your sleep is very, very poor at the moment, that could lead to increased appetite, increased hunger, and decreased energy. And obviously that could be a reason why you're becoming complacent with your nutrition. And then the last one is poor boundaries. So not allowing yourself the time and space to put yourself first. And you keep saying yes to everything else. Now, when you say yes to everything else, what you're doing is you're draining yourself physically as well as mentally. So this is the reasons why, even though you feel you're putting all the work in and doing all the right things, why you could not be seeing results. So firstly, eating healthy doesn't always equate to being in a calorie deficit. Secondly, if we're not losing weight, we're not in a calorie deficit. So we need to bring awareness to why that's happening in terms of the way we track our food, our complacency. And then thirdly, look at the mindset aspect, which is causing these discrepancies in the tracking in the first place. Now, if you start addressing these issues, I guarantee you're going to start seeing much better fat loss results. Hopefully you found this week's episode helpful. If you did, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys next week.